What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Soul Hoops. My name is Jeffrey, and I'm joined, as always, by Ryan and Matthias. We're going to be talking about our top 10 small forwards today, talk about the only thing that's happened in the last week, which is Jamal Murray's contract extension, and then that should be about it. But we are weaning on out of the dog days of the NBA offseason. We're going to start actually getting actual information and camp news and roster stuff soon, so that'll be exciting. But before we get into any basketball, Ryan, Matthias, how are you guys doing today?
Doing good today. Had the day off from work, so just spent the day kind of relaxing, hanging out.
Yep.
I went to see my family for a bit, hung out over there. And now we're back. I mean, we were saying before the show how players are starting to trickle in a little bit to their respective markets, kind of report into camp. So
Yeah.
that kind of means like the season is not too far away here. I'm getting excited. I don't know about you guys. This off season has felt long. I'm just ready for basketball to be played, and I think I say this every season, but I think this season is going to be a blast. Like there's so many interesting things going on in both conferences. Like for a long time, like we've been like, the West is a bloodbath and the East is kind of top heavy, but I think the East is deep, like legitimately, right? Obviously you've got the kind of the big four at the top, and they're going to be there no matter what. But you've got Cleveland, you've got Orlando, Indiana, you still got Miami hanging around. Charlotte, they're kind of frisky. We talked about them last episode. Other teams can potentially kind of just
people are hyping on my Charlotte hype train. I'm seeing that narrative more out there. I'm putting my foot down. I stamped that first. I got the receipts to prove it. So
yeah, and then out west, and then out west,
the Raptors.
like
Raptors are my sneaky team out east.
Hey, shout out to the Raptors though. And then out west,
Shout out Scotty.
I honestly think out west, the only two teams that I can't see making the play-in would be, I guess, Utah and Portland. I think every other team has kind of a shot to sorry, Matthias, but like I think every other team has kind of a shot to do something this season. So
yeah. No, yeah,
there's been a single positive mention of the Portland Trailblazers since last December, dude.
Dude, I haven't gone into a season thinking like this is gonna be a good season in a little bit. So like my expectations are zero for the Blazers, so I don't really care. I'm just more excited to
at least you have your pick, and like it's like a really stacked draft class. Like you'll get a top 5 pick, and 1 through 5 it could be like a franchise altering type pick.
Yeah, but the one thing I'm not excited for is there's a couple guards in that top 5, and I'm not ready to draft a 6'5" shooting guard and get rid of one of the 5 other ones that we've drafted.
Yeah,
because
y'all better pray for Cooper Flagg, bro.
It's not even a joke, dude. It's not even a joke. We're not getting Cooper Flagg. We're gonna get the 3rd pick, and is it Bailey? Isn't that his name? The 6'7" guy, shooting guy, Ace Bailey. He's gonna be off the board, and then it's cooked.
Yeah. Well, you guys got a couple of years, I think, to find a new franchise guy.
Yeah, we're still looking.
Yeah, you're still looking. All right, awesome. Well, you got a little bit of news. Obviously, Jamal Murray signs a contract extension, 4 years, or 5 years, $208 million, I think. Reported earlier in the offseason that they were closing in on the deal. And it's a 4-year deal. Sorry. Okay. So it was a 4-year deal. I thought it was misspeaking.
Is it a 4 + 1 or just 4 flat?
I think it's just 4 flat. So it's 4. It doesn't look like it doesn't have an option or anything. $50 million a year for a non-all-star player is crazy. He has all-star impact, but he's still very unstable as a player. But reported earlier in the offseason that the deal was done. Like it was in back in July, I think, like before the Olympics even started.
It was a while ago.
And then apparently they wanted to put a couple clauses in the contract about injuries and non-guarantees. And there's also some stuff in there about it not being like the fully guaranteed. Like they'd have it like fully guaranteed if you hit like certain player-based incentives, like all-star appearances, all NBAs or whatever. Didn't want that, which I can't blame him too much for saying that, because like that position is stacked, especially in the West, to like get a guard all-star spot or like all NBA spot. Like that's hard. So yeah, I don't really blame it, but then it kind of went quiet. He had a horrible summer playing wise, like didn't really look that great in the playoffs, and then went over to the Olympics. It was supposed to be like this big guy with them, like the number 2 option behind Shea. And then like he kind of stunk it up in the Olympics too. They got bounced out of the medal qualification round, which was crazy because many people thought they were either the second or could possibly put up a fight to win the whole thing, which I don't really think that was really possible. But yeah, so I don't know. You guys got any thoughts about this contract?
I mean, the first like thought I get, like you kind of just like not putting a name to it. He's not like you're just kind of explaining the contract. I immediately think this is going to age like the Mike Conley contract. Not an all-star, reliable guy that plays up over his value. I think the Nuggets know that they got this core and they know that they can succeed with it. So I think it's one of those things where it's like right now it's like, oh, he's got injuries and you don't know if they've plateaued. But I think we'll look back at this in like a decade when Jamal Murray, is on his third contract or second contract from now, and it'll be like it's aged well because he's so reliable, and especially in that system, like I get the idea of trying to upgrade, but realistically, who fits both like stylistic wise and skill wise that would be an upgrade from Jamal Murray? And it's like he's too reliable, way too reliable.
That's kind of what I'm thinking about this too. Like, I was a bit surprised to see the deal get done, just given like, if it didn't get done before the Olympics, where he was really bad, I guess I was kind of surprised to see it get done after he played like shit for Canada. But you know how it goes. Like once you get closer to the deadline, like for these extensions, right? Like, one side usually starts to give in a bit, and I just like don't. It is a lot of money for a guy who's never been an all-star and a guy who, he was bad this summer. He was bad in the playoffs last year. Does have an injury history, but like when you have a player as good as Nikola Jokic, like you have to do everything you can to keep, a good team around him. And the fact is, like Jamal Murray, like he just fits so well with Jokic, right? And it's a proven concept. Like they won a championship just a couple seasons ago. I don't know. I just think that getting that contract done and just, not letting that relationship between Jamal and the Nuggets sour at all, I think is a good thing for them, especially given the players they've already lost. I think this is I'm a fan of it for both sides.
I agree.
Yeah, I think like I agree with what you guys are saying, but at the same time, this team might be the most front-loaded roster in the NBA right now. They have 3 dudes making $45+ million now, or I don't know. I'm gonna fact check on MPJ's contract, but now they're gonna have So next season, MPJ 35 million, 38 million, 41 million essentially for the next 3 years. Now Jamal Murray has a pretty small contract this season, I'm pretty sure. Because I think his contract is from before he was even like a breakout type player. Mm-hmm. And then obviously Jokic's not a supermax. There's nothing else on this roster right now. That's my main worry with them. So right now, obviously the top 4 paid guys are going to be who you expect. Jokic, Murray, MPJ. Aaron Gordon is the next highest paid player. And 22 million under these guys, 35 million and 36 million for Jamal Murray next season. And then his extension kicks in 2025. And after this season, Aaron Gordon has a player option, which he might opt into for 22 million. But depending on the season, if there's a team like, I'm going to see him throw out a couple of teams like the Spurs, who will probably be ascending after this year, who's going to have cap space. Like if there's a team like that's like, we'll give you a crazy contract like we gave Bruce Brown, but you're even better than Bruce Brown. So we'll give you 28 million. just like how KCP got this year, to try to get another good winning vet to help us take the next step. That's possibly another role player that you're losing. And the next guy, like these next guys, like Zeke Naji is the next highest paid player. And like, I just think that like when you keep putting all the money into your top 3 guys like this, and like you're not paying guys who you get on those bargain deals for cheap, like they haven't been finding like minimum guys that they can turn into an $8 million contract. You know what I mean? Those guys keep walking, and it's just getting tougher and tougher for them to fill out this roster. And essentially too, with this extension, it's like, okay, well, this is the top 3 for sure, unless you can trade MPJ. But with the new salary cap issues and aprons and trade regulations, is there a team that has $38 million in contracts to just dump off to you to get multiple pieces for MPJ? Probably not. I think it's a good contract to like secure your number 2 option, because if he hit free agency and walked, it would be disastrous, like an absolute disaster. But
that's the biggest problem, is they can't let these guys walk. Is that like small market team, and like they have their core figured out, and like the problem with the Nuggets since they had Jeremy Grant was, who are they going to pay all these guys? Because at that point they were the opposite. They had all this depth with guys playing over their contract, and like when you're going to bring it back. So it's like it just depends if they, like you said, the 8 million guys that they can find. They have to find gems that actually can function. You know what I mean? Or find second round picks that can play. And if you don't, like the top heaviness will be affected. Because like I don't want to compare them to the Warriors, but like their system is system wise, the way their system is so smooth, and they're able to run that split action and just that 2-man game it's very Warrior-esque. Like I don't think there's an engine that's run smoother since prime Golden State. They can make guys, I think, that are valued maybe at 8 million play up in their contract. You know what I mean? And it just matters if they find guys that fit.
Yeah, and I just don't think they've been able to do that so far.
Yeah.
I think they do miss Tim over there in that front office. Like Calvin Booth, I think has, I think deservedly so too, has received a lot of credit after the championship run, obviously, but like he did that with mostly a team that the last GM built, right? And I just think we're starting to see like they're not really hitting on the margins like they used to for so long, where they were hitting on draft picks and they were, just these like 1% moves were just so good. I just don't think they've done that anymore. And like, yeah, Deron Holmes tearing his Achilles in his first summer league game is tough, right? Like you can't plan for that. But
yeah,
Russell Westbrook, move. He can't play in the playoffs. Dario Saric, I don't think was that good for the Warriors last year too. So, and I don't know. It worries me a little bit, this team.
Other than in a pick and roll, like I don't even think him and Jokic's pick and roll is comparable, because they play at different paces.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The reason Murray and Jokic are so well is that Murray runs a very lateral pick and roll. You know what I mean? He's very bounce back, come around, step back 3. Maybe like
mid-range is his go-to.
Yeah, get in the mid-range sidestep, fade off of it, and just catch and
I have
shoot.
Maybe like kind of shots, bro.
But Russell Westbrook can't do that. He can't move laterally unless he's playmaking like laterally out of the pick and roll, and that's like
I don't think you're going to see a lot of Russ as pick and roll as the ball handler. I'd say you're probably going to see more inverted pick and roll with him as the screener with Jokic.
I guess that's fair, but like I just struggle to see where like he'd be a threat. Like they run a split action with Jokic having the ball with Westbrook and who else? Like all right, if Westbrook pops, all right, let's like they're gonna let Westbrook pop, so then the back cut's never gonna get open, or you just know Westbrook's gonna back cut every time, and they run the split action out the ass. Like that's their whole thing. Jokic is the best in it.
There's only 2 players that have played real NBA minutes that you can say are plus shooters that are outside of Jokic.
I just don't get how you can't start the best passer in the league can't have shooters around him. Like isn't it 2K? You can't get Hall of Fame Dimer and all of a sudden a 63-point shooter turns into an 80. You know
Literally.
what I mean? Like that doesn't happen.
I mean, listen to this lineup here. I mean, obviously in the starting lineup, the spacing is going to be okay because Jokic is so great at creating so much pressure on the rim and he can move the ball so well. But Murray is a good shooter. I don't think he's an elite shooter, but he's a good shooter.
Good shooter.
Especially off the catch. MPJ is an elite catch and shoot player. Yeah. After that, Julian Strawther is the only other player on the entire roster. I'm like, yeah, that is that guy I think will be able to hit shots. And he's never played real NBA minutes.
He's not proven.
Yeah. Like the next guy off the bench, Christian Braun's going to start, or Brown, he's going to start. You don't know if he's actually going to be good. Like, his shooting's been a problem. Saric should theoretically be able to shoot, but we've seen like he's been very up and down. I mean, if he was actually being able to stretch the floor from the 4/5 position, he would not be bouncing around teams like he is right now.
Yeah.
And he's miserably defensively.
Well, that's his issue, is that where can he do it? If his jumper's not falling, does he do anything else positive? You know what I mean?
He passes pretty well, but that's like you can't just be a passer.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah. I don't know. Nuggets are I think when we get into when we're talking about the conferences or divisions, however we decide to do it, like I think Nuggets are going to be very interesting because it's like they have Jokic, so it's like they should be a top 4 or 5 seed, but you worry if literally anyone misses time on that roster.
It's one of those things where they should be a surefire top seed, like you said, but it's like, oh, if injuries happen around the playoffs, or it's like, oh, they get a bad matchup. I don't know if I'm necessarily like they're gonna as confident in them as a playoff team.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like I think right now they're definitely built for the regular season.
Yeah, for sure. I think we can get into the main part of this episode then today, which is ranking small forwards. Ryan assembled the list. So Ryan, if you want to go through the criteria that we went through for the list, where we got all the information from, go right ahead with that.
So let me just pull up my notes app real quick. I wrote some of this down actually. Yeah. So for what we did to deem who would be considered a small forward for this list, we used Basketball Reference based on last year, and we did make some changes just kind of to where we see fit, right? Like the Phoenix Suns, like I'm not going to put Bradley Beal or Grayson Allen as their small forward just because we know they aren't real small forwards. For example, other teams like the Blazers, they didn't really have a real small forward last year. They had injuries. They just didn't really have a guy. But for the most part, every team is going to have a guy who played the majority of their minutes at small forward last year. And again, we used Basketball Reference to kind of figure all this out. So, and then just as far as the format for how we're presenting these lists, we're going to each give 2 honorable mentions, guys we considered who didn't make the cut, and then just go, spot by spot, starting from 10, ending at 1. And just kind of go around, have some discussion about guys who we, feel like we need to talk about. And yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. I can start off with my honorable mentions. So my honorable mentions ended up being Jaden McDaniels and then I had I think I probably would have Chris Middleton. I took Chris Middleton out of it because I just think he didn't play enough games last year. Like he played only 54 games or something like that. So I kind of took him off, but I put Jaden McDaniels or Trey Murphy. Even Trey Murphy coming off the bench, just absolutely awesome player. He's one of my favorite role player guys in the league. 6, 8, 9, 10, in that range. It's kind of weird. I don't know exactly what he's listed at, but he's in that upper forward range of height. Really pretty good defensively. Amazing shooter off the catch. Took a pretty decent step self-creation wise when BI was missing time, I felt like. When you have a two-way wing that can shoot threes at a high volume and make them and also can create a little bit, it's a success for any type of player. And then Jaden McDaniels, I think I just put him down here just because the offense is so rough. And on my 10, it was another defensive guy. And I think his defense is like a little bit better, maybe. I don't know. It's kind of a toss up for me, but I think OG's maybe. My 10's OG, but I think OG might be a little bit better on the offense. Like, I don't know. They're both really rough offensively, like by themselves, but like I think OG might be a little bit more stable on the offensive side. Like, you're still going to get that catch and shoot ability. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Jaden's just too swingy with that offense, I guess. But
no, yeah.
Matthias,
what were you gonna say for someone? For my honorable mentions at 12, I had MPJ. His shooting is just so valuable, and I think that he's performed on high levels, and I think he's a little one-dimensional. And although shooting is really valuable, I think who I have at 11, Jaden McDaniels, does something a little like no one else does in the league, so I kind of put him over there. I kind of agree with everything you said about Jaden McDaniels. Jeff, he is great defender, iffy on the offense, but I think he brings such valuable switching that, like, I honestly don't know if there's really a defender like him in the league. You could argue if someone's more valuable, but he really brings something that is intriguing.
Yeah. My two honorable mentions are Jaden McDaniels and Franz Wagner.
Damn.
We talked about Jaden a little bit. But yeah, just the offense is just too inconsistent for really for him to jump up into this list, even though the defense is insane, and he's just a guy like in the playoffs can swing a series. And that means a lot. And Franz Wagner was the toughest cut I've had of any of these lists so far. I've always been like a Franz Wagner fan. I was saying to you guys before, like I was on the train that he was better than Paulo for a little bit, and I no longer think that, but like I was a big fan of his. It's just, as Paulo has kind of taken the step into being more of a star, like I think Franz has.
He's trying to adapt to not being the number one.
Yeah. I think Franz is best. Franz, I don't like him in an off-ball role, and like the shooting is a big reason for that. But I just think like him being able to play make with the ball in his hands at a high rate and to get to the lane and get to that floater, like he just can't do that as much with the spacing on the Magic and with Paulo kind of being that guy for them. So, I think next year he could be in this list, but it was a tough cut just overall.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, well, let's get right in the list then. I kind of revealed my 10. OG Anunoby had, before his injury in January or February, whenever it was, he was a legitimate like depoy candidate as a wing guy, which we haven't really had in the recent years. And like following that trade to New York, just went on a crazy run defensively. The on and off numbers for him were just absolutely insane. And then like, I just think his impact overall on the defense that the Knicks were running that at that time. I mean, they were, I think, the best defense in the league with him on the court by far. They're still good with him off the court just because they have so many good defenders. But if you can swing a good defense that far into the elite category, I think that just shows how impactful you are. And then obviously the offense, the creation is really not there. But I think you're still getting serviceable catch and shoot play. And when you're a depoy level wing defender, can switch pretty much 1 through 4. I think that's just enough to make you elite. And he got paid like he's elite. So I think, but I do think that there is an expectation for me, at least. Like, I think it's weird that it's hard to put expectations on non like star players, especially like defensive focused players. But like, if you got paid $40 something million, like I think you got 5 years, $200 million. Like, you got paid $200 million. Like, I need to see like the ability of you to like keep that impact up. And I think you're going to need to see more offense from him next season, which is hard because they just traded for Mikal. And I think Mikal does a lot of the offensive things that OG can do, but he does them better. So I really don't think he's going to get as many opportunities, but I mean, they're all in on their championship window right now, so like it really doesn't matter. So hopefully that goes well for them. I'm not sure exactly how that fit's going to be. I do think the OG, Mikal. I think that there's going to be some things to figure out with the Knicks. I think they're going to have some time to figure out what they really want to do on offense. But that's just how it goes with him. So that's my 10.
Yeah.
My 10 is also OG Anunoby, just to say that out there. I don't have much else. I don't have much else to add to what you said, Jeff. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah. And like, only thing I really have to add is more stuff about Mikal, and he's higher up on my list, so I can wait. But yeah, OG at 10, I think it's the perfect spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Who wants to do their number 9 then?
I can go.
You can go, Ryan. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll just go. I got Brandon Ingram at 9.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I put him low. I think people who know me know that I'm kind of out on Brandon Ingram. Like I've talked about it a lot at this point, but I just don't like what Brandon Ingram is giving you in 2024 at this point. And I feel like, I just feel like when I compare him to a lot of the guys I have above him, I would rather have a lot of those guys if I'm a team that's trying to win a championship. Right. I think Brandon Ingram, we've seen versions of Brandon Ingram where it's like, okay, this is like, he could be an all-star. Like it's so obvious what he is, but like, I don't really know what's happened. I mean, the 3-point volume has just taken a nosedive for whatever reason. I don't think he gets to the rim as often as he maybe once did with the same power. I think he's way too reliant on that mid-range jumper. I think the playmaking kind of comes and goes with him. And defensively, obviously, he isn't guarding anything. And like his game looks pretty when he's cooking. Like when Brandon Ingram is cooking, like it's a pretty fun watch. I just think it's too inconsistent at this point, and it's hard for me to feel his winning impact sometimes. And I really do value that, just winning impact.
Yeah, so I have BI a little bit higher. I'm not going to say where I have him, but I do have him a little bit higher. But I did want to talk about what you were talking about with the 3-point volume. So this is funny because I literally have this Reddit post up from specifically for Brandon Ingram. No, there's a lot of good stuff in here. This Pelicans fan. So I don't know how to pronounce his name, and I don't know if it means something weird, so I'm not going to say this post name, but it was in r/Pelicans. And it pretty much said that BI attempted 3.8 threes last year. During the 2020 season and the 2021 season, he attempted 6 threes a game. And he shot them at 39% and 38%. So he shot worse on less attempts over the last 2 years. And a lot of it is, I think, because they lost that point guard play that they've been so desperately needing. It makes him not be able to run the actions to get easy catch and shoot threes. And weirdly, he's a really great shot creator in the mid range. Not a great shot creator on the 3-point line, just because it's not what he's comfortable doing, which is fine. But he's a pretty good catch and shoot 3-point player. And I think that the way that we view BI, he's going to be on the Pelicans this year. I don't see a trade getting done this late.
Yeah, neither do I.
Close to training camp when you're not a superstar player. Like this is around the time that Dame's trade got finalized. Like BI is not a player like that where you're gonna like throw away one of your team's best players 2 weeks before camp starts to get him. And I think that we're gonna look at BI a lot differently this year with DeJounte Murray running point guard, and hopefully that leads to them having some more easy shots. And I hope that's just a little bit more balance in the lineup. Like CJ McCollum had a pretty good season last year, had crazy like pull-up shooting numbers, catch and shoot he was elite as well. But the playmaking really lacked there, which it always has. That's why he's a 2 guard. He's not a point guard, but he's playing point guard for the Pelicans. And I'm just interested to see where that goes, like overall, with a real point guard who can create some easier looks on catch and shoot, especially because DeJounte is a guy who likes to get downhill and also go to that pull-up type game. And if he's going to that off of actions with Brandon Ingram, I think that'll open up a lot more actions for him to hit those slip screens into the corner, maybe some more wing catch and shoot threes. And maybe also create some rim presence for him too, where he can slip off the backdoor of actions. I don't know. It's going to be up to his willingness to do that off ball, which we haven't seen in the last few years from BI. But I do want to remind everyone that there was a time when BI was doing things like that off ball, and that's when he was probably at his best form. That 2021 season when he was an all-star. I think that was the all-star season. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All I'm gonna say is mid-range hates to see the Pelicans, so they're going to abuse 18 footers like CJ, DeJounte,
Ingram.
Oh yeah, we're bringing back 2000
like,
ball.
That is a full
2000s ball with no center.
Yeah,
no center to roll set screens, but we're running
with Zebo at center.
Yeah,
New age Zebo at center.
Matthias, did you say you're 9?
No, at 9 I had Franz at 9.
Okay, I have okay.
Mikal.
Yeah, I have Mikal at 9.
Okay, Franz, you touched on it a little bit, but creation is the biggest thing, biggest worry, as well as his, I guess, like, I worry that he can't scale up to like a consistent 2 option, borderline 1 option, because like the way I think of it, like a true second option is someone that when the guy is gone, he can step up and run a 1 for a game or 2. You know what I mean? Like, you got the best second option. There's Kyrie. You know, there's even like Chris Middleton. He's not even known as like an all-time great.
He is
second option.
He is, though.
But he is like a second option like that. Like,
yeah,
I don't see Franz providing consistent creation like that offensively, and that's like a bigger worry. Right now, I see him more plateauing as a third option, and I don't see the Magic going anywhere unless they get a better offensive engine. Well, second option, because their offensive engine is Paulo, and I think he is going to develop into that, but they need a second guy because I think at this point Franz's offense is too shaky and it hasn't shown too much of a self-creation leap.
No,
yeah,
I agree.
And I think the conversation changes if his 3-point percentage goes back up, right? I think that would do him a lot of favors, but
yeah, it depends on how he's taking them too. Like, if he has a Scotty Barnes type 3-point leap, or like even like a De'Aaron Fox 3-point leap, where his 3-point percentage goes up only to like 32, but he's making pull-ups.
Yeah, I think you just need to see. I think you just need to see it has to be one or the other. He either needs to be a league average at least catch and shoot 3-point player, or he has to be slightly below. Like, he needs to be at least somewhat serviceable creating on the perimeter.
Yeah,
in some other way, because the way he creates on the perimeter, I'm not saying he's a bad shot creator, because I think he is a pretty decent shot creator. Yeah. But the way that he creates shots is through like that physical bully ball. And when you play physical bully ball as a perimeter player, you have to be like a special talent at it. You know, like Giannis is obviously a big, but he does bully ball from the perimeter. He plays outside in. He doesn't play. He's not posting up a lot of the time. But it's like he's like a special talent at doing that. And it's hard to have that translate in a playoff setting. Like we saw in Game 7 against the Cavs last year, he's trying to do this. He can't hit a 3 to save his life. He's trying to go to this bully ball. But it's like, okay, well, you're trying to play bully ball on Evan Mobley and Jared Allen.
Yeah.
In a 7-game series, they're figuring out what moves you're going to. They're figuring out what you're doing, what tendencies you're going to against their coverages. Those are elite defensive players. And now they're that's one of the best defensive front courts in the league. And it's like, okay, well, if your end goal is to win a championship, which I think the Magic are building to a team that wants to do that. Obviously, they have a number 1 pick who looks to be a budding star, superstar, maybe even one day. And it's like, okay, well, can you do a deep playoff run where your second option can't consistently hit threes? Like, probably not. Especially when your rest of your roster isn't good at shooting. Like,
exactly.
Like, you could survive if they had a team where like your point guard's a really good catch and shoot player, and your shooting guard's a really good catch and shoot player. And then
Giannis
it's Franz
and Eric
Powell.
Bledsoe made a Eastern Conference Finals, didn't
they? Exactly.
Or,
yeah. But it's like they were surrounded by shooters. I mean, they
Exactly.
had Brooke. They had Brooke at the 5. They had Chris Middleton at the 3. Pat Connaughton came in around that time, coming off the bench. Wes Matthews, GOAT.
Forgot about him.
2020 George
Blazers
Hill special
legend.
player. But that was obviously 2020, not 2019. But anyways, you got to have the team building, and I just don't think that they have. I think they have the ability to get there, but I'm just not sure if it's really gonna to get there right away. And I have Franz at 8, so I'll say I don't have him much higher. I do think his defense puts him over like a couple other guys, and his offense was better than I had McCall at 9, which I'm guessing you guys have him around this range. So we'll just talk.
I have McCall at 8. So
okay.
I got him a little bit higher. I got him at 7. I'll say my 8. My 8 is Chris Middleton.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like I said, I would love to put Chris at 8. I think his playoffs was absolutely awesome. Like
those threes against Indiana, man.
Yeah.
This is like I feel like I'm in 2021.
Yeah.
Right now, man.
He's such a dog. The reason I pushed him down for me is like the injury problems the last 2 years. Being in not against and last season the injuries weren't even like his body breaking down. I mean, like the injury that cut him out at the end of the last year, KD went under his landing space and he twisted his ankle. Like every player in the NBA outside of the 3 dudes who seem to just be can't get injured, which is like Giannis and prime LeBron and Jokic. Apparently, like no matter what happens to them, they're just back out on the court in like 30 seconds. Like tie up my shoe, let's go, brother. Like.
That's Ant, bro.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Did he remember when he goes in that boot for 8 hours? Like they put him in a boot and then he played the next day. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, but I just pushed him down because of the injuries. I think if we're looking at another season where I think this year it's a real possibility, you're going to have Dame at probably around 25, 26 PPG. I think Giannis will be around that 30 mark again, probably. Maybe they're both around 28 instead, which would be fucking awesome. But I think you're looking at a Chris Middleton year where it's he's averaging 17-ish, maybe, hopefully, and the 18 maybe at the high end, and he's such a good passer too. It's the most underrated part of his game. And you're really pushing him up this list again. Oh my God, the Bucks have 3 dudes who are legit star players come playoff time. So yeah.
In terms of McCall, I think we all have, do you guys want to talk about McCall, or do you want
we can talk about McCall first. My 7's BI, which we already talked about. So
yeah, mine is also BI. So that works out.
I had him a little bit lower. I think the reason I put him lower is I think the idealized version of Mikal Bridges is that 3-and-D wing who's playing shooting guard, small forward for you, and guarding the other players, either the other team's best player or their second best player. In this case, next season, probably because OG is going to be taking that assignment off the bat. But and shooting catch and shoot threes. And I think over the year and a half he was in Brooklyn, we saw a little bit of the shot creation, but last year, he can do it, but he can't he can go to a move, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a sustainable thing. It doesn't look like he can create regular offense for himself, and especially not for others. I mean, it's just not the type of player he is, which is fine. And last year on defense, with how much offensive responsibility, again, and this could completely change with this upcoming season in a smaller role, but with how much offense he was trying to put out and the team he was on last year, I mean, the defense just looked not great either. I mean, you can ask some Nets fans, he was just getting torched a lot of games because he still wanted to take those tough assignments, but it's hard to take those assignments when you're the number one shot creator on your team and being asked to create for yourself and others. It's
especially hard. Especially on a team that's asked. In terms of shot creation, they have Cam Thomas
and nothing else.
And if we're going to talk about how their offense even ran, that
they don't even have a point guard.
That's the one thing. I didn't really penalize Mikal too much for this year because I felt like it was more of Mikal was performing despite who was around him type things. And I don't want to like shit on the Brooklyn Nets because I think they have some good. There's some talented
guys. They're gonna
be
horrible this year though.
But they're gonna be horrible. You know what I mean? Like that's just the facts of it. And Mikal's going to slide in, and I think he's going to produce at the third option, and I think he's going to be super efficient, and I think he's going to be a good defender, and I think it's going to be one of those things where that experience that he got in Brooklyn, I think he's going to be like I think there's a chance that, like you were saying, Chris Middleton comes in, averages 17, 18 on solid playmaking. I think you could say the same thing. Mikal comes in, I bet he averages 17, 18 on good defense. You know what I mean? And like real good defense. And I think he's just one of those guys where, like when we're talking about him versus OG, he's just something that he's good at everything. Like even though he's not a prolific passer, he's a high enough IQ player that he tends to make the right passes. You know what I mean? So it's not like he's a bad passer or he's making bad decisions all the time. It's like, I know, like, I mean, he's barely missed a game in his career since like his whole basketball career out in amateurs, all that. Like he's one of the most reliable players in the league. And I think that adds to his value because I think a lot of guys below him have some big inconsistencies, and even some guys I put above him have some big inconsistencies. And there's something about just being a steady rock that deserves some flowers for Mikal.
Definitely. And I think, I don't have too much more to add. I think you guys really kind of hit all the big points with Mikal. I mean, he's just as steady as it comes, I feel like, and is super reliable. He's gonna play every game, right? You know that from him. And if you guys remember his not his last half of a season in Phoenix, but his last full season in Phoenix, I thought like he was one of the best. I thought he was the best wing defender in the NBA that season, especially that earlier in that year. And seeing the offense kind of start to blossom for him. Obviously, when he was first traded to Brooklyn, he was averaging 25 and was looking like a guy who I thought could be a star. And it didn't translate really over to the next season. I mean, I think everything went wrong for the Nets last year. Coaching, their point guard, shooters, like everything was bad for them. So I'm not looking into last year and being like, oh man, like Mikal wasn't as good as the first option or whatever. Like I just don't really care about that as much. Again, with the winning impact thing, I just think that Mikal Bridges is a guy who, if you want to win a championship, you want Mikal Bridges on your team. I think he's kind of in that Drew Holiday mold a little bit of just a guy who's just so solid at everything and will just help you win. And I think on the Knicks, like his production might not be too crazy. He might average like 14 points per game. And I think
he's going to be way more effective. I think he's going to be sneakily effective because,
what did he average?
Sorry to cut you off. His last half season before he was traded, he averaged 17 points per game while also being a really good defender for Phoenix. I think
was that when Chris Paul was out?
Yeah, I think he is a better basketball player than he was that day. And I think the Knicks offensively,
he was like the year before, he was D-point favorite, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He was insane. Last full year in Phoenix, he was insane. He had Steph. There was a game where he had Steph Curry in fucking jail, bro.
Yeah.
You're telling me
Chris Middleton ruined him.
Mikal being a potential third, fourth option again, like and it's gonna be one of those things where he's just gonna be better. So when Julius Randle misses a game or Jalen Brunson misses a game, you're not gonna get, like in Phoenix, you might get a 21 point per game, like when Devin Booker is out or whatever from Mikal. Now, like you could get a 24, 25 point per game week from Mikal in that offense if one of those guys is missing. And I think that's like a big difference. You know what I mean? And I think he's going to be super effective.
I'm trying to see.
Sorry to derail you too much, Ryan.
That's the Marcus Smart year, dude. This should have been his award, dude. Oh my God. That would have been so much cooler than Marcus Smart winning that. Sorry. I agree. Also, I'm just looking at his B-ball reference. Do you guys remember how many points per game he averaged when he got traded to Brooklyn that second half of that year through the playoffs?
He averaged 26, didn't he?
26 points per game on 54% effective field goal, which was his second highest of his career. And then he shot 38% from 3 on 7 attempts.
He was looking like Kevin Durant, bro.
Yeah.
I feel like it was like the Nets traded KD and kind of got KD back, bro. He was looking like that.
Bro, he was going to war against the Sixers in the playoffs, dude. I think they got swept, bro. He was averaging like 27.
Yeah. That was a hilarious series, bro. Nick Claxton.
Nick Claxton got ejected like 2 minutes into the game.
God.
All right.
So we talk about everybody that we have at 7. I have BI at 7.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want to talk about my 6 because you guys. I think this is a crazy take. Now that I'm thinking about how you guys talk about him.
Okay.
Chris Middleton at number 6.
Hey, I don't.
The playoffs are real.
I don't hate it.
All right. His 15 points per game were fake. They were fake. You know why? Because this was his first year since his injury years that he was close to 50, 40, 90. He's always been a 50, 40, 90 guy. With volume, we saw he could perform in the playoffs. He's going to be 50, 40, 90 or close to it again next year. I think he's going to be smoother. I don't think he's going to average like anything career high, but he's going to average around 18, 19, a little bit short, a little bit lower than his all-star years, but I think he's going to be efficient. I think his playmaking numbers probably are going to stay the same, but I think again, he's one of those guys. He's going to be a 3 option that I think could upscale to a 1 option when needed. I think he's one of those guys where his stats are due to his role rather than how effective he is as a basketball player. And he's so willing to just be like, yeah, okay, Dame, go average 28, Giannis. Go average 25, Dame. I'm going to shoot the lights out and we're going to win.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what Chris Middleton does.
He shot an absurd amount of pull-up mid-ranges. I'm gonna
put Chris Middleton on the Brooklyn Nets. He's averaging like 27 points per game for a whole season if he gets through a whole season. But
I'm gonna look it up.
Like he is one of the most talented offensive players in the league, and
he's so good, dude.
I think the playoffs were real. I think his regular season, if you look at his stats, he was efficient. He just didn't play enough minutes or really enough like time.
Yeah, and that's why I took him off. That's why I took him off my list. Like, and that's just my criteria personally.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I did it with Kawhi too, I believe, last offseason, where it was just like when you come back from injury and you perform on the highest level, like nothing fucking happened. I'm gonna be like, okay, nothing happened. He just played the best basketball of the season without his best player, while like, you know, in a hard environment. Like that's real. That's real basketball. And that's what Chris Middleton plays. So
he shot 58.5% on mid-range shots last year. And he was 6% better than second place and 7% higher than third. And
didn't he have one of the highest?
MPJ and KD. And he shot 60% from mid-range in the playoffs.
I can't remember if it was this year or one of these years, but he like broke a record for like mid-range percentage in the playoffs. Like I remember seeing, or like he was in close on breaking a record because like I remember seeing stats with him and he was just shooting just absurd jump shot numbers. Yeah, and like I just really think like I've said upscaling when comparing players. Like Chris Middleton he's downscaled. You know what I mean? He is a Chris Bosh on the Miami Heat. Like, I really like. I think he could be a 1 option on a borderline playing like playoff team. I truly think so. Maybe not because he's old and he's injured, but skill wise,
he's my GOAT, man.
Like I still think he's one of the highest performing small forwards in the league.
And he'll never be off this team, and I have no problem with it. I never want him gone, dude. Like I want him to retire a Buck so bad. Like. I don't know. I love talking about Chris Middleton because I think he's a really unique player, just for the modern NBA. But the thing is, like, we talk about his mid-range shooting so much. Like I said earlier, the connective passing. I mean, he's one of the best he's one of the best lob throwers in the NBA. You look at the numbers, one of the best lob throwers in the NBA. pretty much like the only player I've ever seen be able to consistently throw lobs to Giannis, like that he can actually like where Giannis likes him. And man, I mean, like I'm just gonna reminisce, like if his injuries didn't start to catch up with him with like the knee problems in 2022, and then the ankle in 2023, and the wrist in 2023, and then the ankle again last year, like I think you're looking at like one of like he'd probably be in have another All-Star appearance or two. He should have an All NBA appearance, but that was before they did the locked positional thing. So he like would have made it if everyone voted for him as a small forward or a shooting guard. And they didn't like vote for him completely in his position. So it got split. He got fucked out of that, which kind of sucks. But you know, he's a great player. I'm really excited to see what this team looks like the Bucks overall looks like healthy. Because Chris, I think, was really, really good last year overall. Just the injuries were the problem, not his play.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of time with the injuries, like it was like I felt like the Bucks were very preventative. Like he would, you know, be like have a little soreness and they'd be like, nah.
Yeah.
You're done. Like you gotta sit down until the soreness is, and like I get that. But also one more thing, because I know we're taking a lot of time with Chris Middleton, but even his knee injury was a slip. Like he literally just slipped, and then it caused knee issues for years, which is like you said it, but he's had one of the most unfortunate
injury histories. Yeah,
injury histories. Not in the fact that he just gets injured a lot, but also only one of them wasn't a fluke. I think only one of the ankle injuries wasn't a fluke.
Yeah, I think so.
And he's had 3 of them, and then some lingering knee issues from that slip.
You know, yeah. I mean, it was the slip hurt his knee, and then it kind of went into his hamstring, and then it hurt his ankle, and then he also had like a tear and a ligament in his wrist as well.
That wrist injury.
But yeah, but we can move on to the next guy. I have 6. I have DeMar at 6. I just think just a steady player. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he's further down this list or maybe even off this list next season. Like maybe. But just hyper efficient, really good at getting in the line, creates for himself. Playmaking is pretty underrated, I'd say. When there's other options to play make too, he is willing to do it. Excited to see what he looks like on this Kings team overall.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's who I have at 6.
I've got J-Dub at 6.
Okay, I have him at 5.
I forgot about J-Dub. All right, shit. I missed J-Dub. I went, oh, fuck. You said that name, and oh, well.
Just throw him
I'll just talk about him. It's fine.
Yeah.
I always forget somebody. I'm such a space head.
No, it's okay. Yeah, we can talk about J-Dub. He's my 5, so I'm fine with talking about him now if you want. Yeah, I mean, just like, again, what we talked about with like the Chris Middleton thing, like he's kind of like a Chris Middleton type player too, like really good connective passer, hyper efficient pull-up jump shooter last season. I don't know how those numbers are going to look like this year, but I'm guessing they're going to go down because he was like one of the best seasons of all time with that. And like, I just don't know if that's going to stay that way.
But he was insane.
Yeah.
Efficiency was just ridiculous.
Yeah. And, I'm interested to see what that looks like next season. I think he'll still be good there, obviously. But yeah, I mean, just 3-level shot creator, steady playmaker, works off of Shea really well and knows how to balance his game with Shea's and everyone else's, which is kind of the whole mantra of the Thunder. It's kind of their thing. They're just balancing everything. Yeah, I'm excited to see where year 3 goes for him. Probably going to be an all-star candidate, especially because they're going to win like 65 plus games probably next season.
I think they could get to 70, honestly. They're so insane, man.
Shout out to the Bulls, man. Wow, what a great trade. But yeah,
I think with J-Dub, like it's so rare where you see a player this young who is as well-rounded and who has as few weaknesses as J-Dub does. Like there aren't a lot of major weaknesses in J-Dub's game right now. Like you look at his physical profile, he's 6'7", 6'8". He's jacked, he's athletic, he's fast, he's got amazing feel for the game, his timing. The pull-up jump shooting numbers were insane. And yeah, they probably will go down a little bit just because like it would be really hard to replicate what he did last year, but he's already shown that he can be a very efficient player from whether it's shooting, the mid-range, getting to the rim. He's a good passer. He fills the gaps well. There are just so many things that J-Dub does well and doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, which for players who are earlier in their career and are young like that, like he's like 22 right now, you don't see that often. And yeah, he plays well with Shea. He plays well with Chet. Thunder are going to be a good team. It just feels like a no-brainer that he's high on this list. It's like a top 5 small forward already.
Yeah, I think if I were to throw him on this list, I'd either put him at 5. I don't know if I put him over. Putting him over DeMar is really tough for me, but I put him right around. Like I think they're pretty interchangeable.
Yeah.
And if like we're going for this season, like I would probably go J-Dub ahead of him. Simply because I think Jalen's going to take a step. And the one thing I do want to say about J-Dub before we don't have to sit on him too long, but if you want to look on his advanced statistics, he quite literally is not like statistically he was not bad like anywhere.
Yeah,
no joke. He was advanced or better in almost every single statistic.
He has like no weaknesses. That's what I'm saying.
The only issue you could say is like I would like for him to have a little more like
the playoffs are rough
in his self-creation. His playoffs were rough.
Happens playoffs.
Once year, like I don't even think like his whole playoff run was rough. Like I thought like he performed in certain games, but I think like he had some inconsistencies. And I think like the only real criticism or like negative part of his game is that like visually you might want him to get more comfortable in pull-ups, might get more comfortable in self-creation, but like that comes with time. He's so advanced and like it's not I can't even express how little of an exaggeration it is that he is advanced in almost every position on the floor on both ends.
Yeah. And I think like the only thing that was really like I'm looking at Crafted NBA, but like the only thing that's like not like high green percentile wise is defensive rebound percentage, which makes sense because he was playing the power forward as like a 6'5" wing. So yeah, like he's like a shooting guard, but he's playing power forward. Which I don't think he's going to do much more of this year, maybe in the starting lineup, but I think they're going to sub in. They're going to have some jumbo packages with Chet and Hartenstein out there, which honestly, I'm really interested to see like if Hartenstein maybe just starts right away. Like if you just do the Chet Hartenstein lineup, like that would be nasty. Like, like, I don't know. So yeah, it was defensive rebound percentage and then 3-point attempt rate. Which they just didn't shoot a lot of threes as a team, honestly. So I can't. And then the offensive rebound rate and free throw rate, which again, Shea is getting those calls.
Yes.
Like the refs aren't going to give him a high end free throw amount of free throws.
But also, if Jalen could put those refs in the position like Shea does and raises that percentage, like then that's just stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
So I have J-Dub at 6. 5, I have DeMar DeRozan.
Okay. I have DeMar there as well.
I also don't think we did to kind of dwell on for that long. I mean,
just a good player.
Like just a good player. I mean, I feel like he might get forgotten about over time just because, he might not ever make the Hall of Fame, but like
he will.
Dude's been one of the best bucket getters in the NBA for like 10, 15 years now. And like you've got to respect that, right? He's just been like his longevity has been really impressive, and he just has such a mature game. He's patient. He knows where his spots are. He knows what he can do. I'm interested to see how he kind of he brings that and kind of fits it in with the Kings. But like, I think he was kind of forgotten about a little bit this last year with the Bulls because they weren't really on anything. But like, he really was good.
And Kobe White was the storyline of that team.
Definitely. And so yeah, that's kind of all I have on DeMar DeRozan. Like we know what he is, and he's just really good.
Yeah. Basically, to touch up on that, I'm just excited for how he's going to fit in with the Kings. I'm excited to see if he's going to be one of the better options in the league, or if he's going to, take a step back and be a third option and play more of like a off ball off of Sabonis and Fox and Monk. We'll see. They're also a team that runs a lot of action. So with his athleticism, I know he's older, but he's still so athletic that like I'm really curious to see how they play with him and Sabonis and Fox with the playmaking and stuff.
Like rise up like when he's
yeah,
and he's quick and he's athletic, man.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for the Kings.
Yeah. Okay, at number 4, this is where I had Scotty. I know we classified him as a small forward just because how it was listed. I think he just kind of messed with how their lineups were because they had so many interchanging pieces. I think he's more of a 4, honestly, but last year he played more 3 than 4.
Yeah.
So yeah. Scotty, I don't know, who do you guys have 4? Who you guys have 4?
I've got Paul George at 4.
Okay.
I have Paul George at 4 as well.
I have PG at 3, so we can talk about either one, whatever one you guys want to go first.
I want to start with Paul George, actually.
Okay.
I think Paul George is a really hard player to evaluate for me in 2024, just because like I just can't tell what he is. Like, is he a star player? Sometimes he looks like he is, and sometimes he looks like this is just like, just kind of a guy, right? I don't know. I don't even know where to start with Paul George at this point, because like this last playoffs were rough for him. Like, he had a couple moments, I think, but overall was rough. And the playoffs before that, like, he was hurt, and then we haven't really seen him in a while. Before, the Clippers have been a weird team. It's hard to rank Paul George for me, and I'm not really projecting. I think if I was projecting, maybe I'd even have him a bit higher, just because I think the more I think about his fit with Philly, the more I like it. But just kind of going off the last year with the Clippers, it was a weird year overall, which, it's hard to rank Kawhi Leonard. It's hard to rank James Harden. It's hard to rank all these guys for just the weird year they had. But Paul George, I mean, he's still one of the most efficient kind of and feared shot creators, at least in the regular season. Is a guy that I still think can defend. He's kind of, become the prototype of creator wing that guys are modeling their game after.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I do wonder a little bit if he hadn't had that leg injury, what he'd look like right now, right? As he's 33, 34, like what exactly he'd be looking like, because I think his game can and has aged somewhat well, but I also think that he's just starting to slip a little bit. And I do wonder if it's just kind of his body sometimes also, because he's not as athletic as he used to be. He's not as fast as he used to be. Yeah. What do you guys think about Paul George, honestly?
Well,
I'm running out of things to say.
A big thing, I mean, just to go off what you said about like his like, I don't want to say like falling behind, because he's still an all-star, right? He just made an all-star team. Like, he's still a good player. Like, I don't want to act like he's falling behind, but his rim pressure and his ability to really collapse a defense, I feel like, has started to go. And I think that's because, like you said, like you can point to his knee, or you can just point that he's 33 and he's aging. Like, that's just a fact. And I don't think he's accepted or necessarily leaned into new ways to create at the rim without using his physical tools of just insane athleticism. You know what I mean? Like, you even see players like LeBron. He's still so athletic, but the way he's changed his game, even just slightly, you know what I mean, to make it easier for him as he ages. And I think Paul George has gone more into the jump shooting, and kind of like Brandon Ingram, I feel like they fall in love with the pull up too much. They fall in love with the outside game, and they lose what they like. Paul George can get to the rim so effortlessly. Paulo struggles with it a little bit too, but like, I just think I've been a big Paul George. Like, I don't necessarily love him going, and I don't think he's going to be able to fit as a third option. I don't think he's shown that he's willing to step behind other players, and I think like his mentality each stop has kind of been weird. You know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, he just said the same thing he said in OKC and in LA. No, he just said the same thing in Philly. They said there. It's like, I know it's PR, but also it's like it's tiring. You know what I mean? And I think like you said, you really like the fit with Paul George and Embiid and Maxey, and I actually think Paul George might make things hard. Like I don't think Maxey should be the third option. Like I think he should.
I don't think he will be. I don't think he will be.
But I think Paul George is going to have a problem with like
but that's the thing though. I don't know. I don't know if he will, because the way that Paul George holds himself is so, and he's held in this regard, and I feel like we push him up in this hierarchy of how he plays because of the way that so many players talk about him, so many coaches talk about him, how many players, legacy players, historic players talk about current players like, oh, Paul George is. But in reality, Paul George has never had a problem over the last few years taking the back seat to players who are doing better than him. And
yes,
also what I do hold out for is Nick Nurse is their coach, and Nick Nurse will just tell him straight up, like, Maxey is going to be our number 2 option on offense.
Yeah.
Like,
but I still like, maybe like,
I do understand what you're saying though. Like
Paul George has never outwardly complained. Like he's always been a professional, and I don't
Yeah.
think he's actually like been upset. But I don't think like play wise, I think he's gonna struggle. Like I think it's gonna be some like versus Clay. Like I don't want to say he's gonna be some like Klay Thompson this like last year type thing, but I think there will be some frustration because I think although Paul George was an all-star, I think next year there's not going to be 3 all-stars on Philly. I think it's the year that Paul George is going to have to take a step back. And I think he's either going to be able to mold. Some people think he's going to be able to mold into that, but I worry that he won't be able to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think that's going to be, not to cut you off, but like,
yeah, no, you're good.
I think that's one of the bigger like kind of storylines of the season is Philly. Cause like if this team hits, they're like, it could be scary.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'll say, I'll put this last thing is Paul George. I just think like he's a plug and play player, but he can overcomplicate things because he's so plug and play. If you know what I mean.
Yes,
that makes sense.
No, I agree. Like I agree. Overcomplicate's a better word than I'm not trying to say like he's gonna throw a media fit or do anything like that. I just think like like I think it's like he's too good, but also like too perfect to fit like you said, he plugs in everywhere, but he's too good. So it's just weird.
Yeah.
Stepping on toes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, then I guess next up we have Scotty Barnes, who was my 4, your guys' 3.
Yep.
Just the leap he took. We talked about it earlier with the pull-up jump shooting was absolutely awesome this season. I think if he keeps growing in the shot creation role, I mean, the sky's the limit. I think I was thinking about this while I was making this list. I think he might be the most underrated young guy for what he's accomplished in only 3 years in the league. Like rookie of the year in a class that had some ups and downs, but like Mobley was like a DPOY candidate in his rookie year and his second year too. And like, and he won rookie of the year. And then he had a very up and down second season. And it was a tough year in general for Toronto that year. Just overall, just so many pieces coming in and out and all that kind of stuff. And so many injuries. And then this year he comes out and he just looks completely different player. I mean, he took such a step on defense. He got so much more functionally stronger, but he also he got so much better shooting the ball, which usually doesn't happen. Like usually if you need to get stronger to play better defense, usually that impacts your shooting ability, which he wasn't already a good shooter, but he became a good shooter and he was so good at offense. I mean, he used that straight to his use. I mean, there's a play when the Bucks played him. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but he shoulder checked Giannis and moved him out of the way and got to the paint through him. And which is that doesn't happen. I mean, it doesn't happen a lot.
And he had to clothesline him and he still didn't even put him down.
Yeah, literally. So. It's wild. And I think that the sky's the limit. And I think that if he keeps growing at the way he is, I mean, even if he has another year just like this, I think he'll be another all-star quality year. And I think if the efficiency keeps going up, I mean, you're just looking at one of those talents where it's he can do it all on offense and he's a plus defender. And that's just the recipe for being a star for a really long time in the league. You know?
Yeah. Scotty, I feel like Scotty is has been the player this summer where I've just kind of fallen in love with. The more I've watched his tape, the more I've watched like just kind of what he does. I wasn't watching a ton of the Raptors last season. I'll be honest. I think I was kind of behind on the Scottie Barnes train a little bit, but end of the year and especially into this off season, just again, the more I've watched, the more I've been like, this dude's really good, and he's gotten good really fast. And I do think that he's still a bit underrated. You know, I don't want to make crazy comparisons or anything, but like when I watch him, I see flashes of like young Giannis a little bit, where it's like just a freak of nature who is good at so many things, but just doesn't know how to put it all the way together yet. And I still think that's Scottie a bit. And Scottie is really, really good as is, but once some of the small things in his game is kind of get rounded out a bit more, and you know, he's more empowered in the Toronto organization, and he gets some better teammates around him with more gravity, more playmaking. I just think that like we're gonna wake up one day and Scottie Barnes is gonna be, you know, an all-NBA type guy, and that's
gonna be next year.
It could be next year, dude. He's really, really good already. Like
that's my hot take of the year. He's averaging 24, like 8 and 7.
Yeah,
I'm so Scottie pilled, dude.
I just think he, like, honestly, I think he's better than a lot of the guys that people might say are above him. Like I saw a tweet like a few weeks ago where it was like Paulo or Scottie Barnes, and I think I'm taking Scottie over a guy like Paulo, no hate, but he's getting a lot of the hype right now, and Scottie isn't. But I think Scottie's better than a guy like that. I think Scottie's better than so many of these guys that, you know, we see talked about in a certain way. And yeah, man, I think the Raptors overall are a team.
Sorry, you can finish. Just finish.
I was going to say I'm going to be watching a lot more Raptors this season, and I'm just excited to see like what Scottie Barnes does, because yeah, I mean I think the breakout is coming sooner or later.
Yeah, he increased his threes per game by 2. He went from he shot 2.6 his rookie year, 2.9 his sophomore year. This year he shot 5 a game. 4.9 for 5 a game. He increased it, and he increased his percentage by 6%. He shot 34%, which is below league average, but again, horrible spacing team. All of his threes were self-created pretty much.
Yeah, and he's shooting. Yeah, exactly. The pull-ups, like he's coming off screens and side steps. Like that's stuff he never even attempted, it felt like.
Yeah, I mean, he averaged 19.9, so I would say that's 20. 6 assists, 8 rebounds, a steal, and a block.
24, 8 and 7. That's right on the horizon, dude. I swear to God, he's a lot closer than people think. Like he is.
Yeah, and I think they're going to be so much better this year. They should have a real team structure this year.
Great coach too.
Yeah, their coach is. Even though he stole all of his information from the Knicks' secret database, but
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
love Scottie Barnes. That's why I love that coach. He loves his players.
Dude, Scottie, and thinking about Scottie too is that of these guys with like real offensive talent, he's probably the best defender. He is the best defender. Like the only other comparable defender is if you're going to talk about OG, Franz, or Mikal maybe. But even then, I don't like OG is the only defender better than him, and he's so far down that list. Like he's the only true. I think he's the only like real true two-way small forward on this list.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree.
I should say like top 7.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like two-way star. Two-way star.
Yeah, for sure.
Like he is a star on both sides.
Actually, the next guy I might say is also.
Yeah. But is he a star? Okay, we'll see.
He's a star.
On the defensive end?
Yeah,
I think he's good.
No, he's not a star defensive player, but he's still two-way. I think Scottie's better than him, but
I think Scottie is like put a better team around him. Like he might get like I don't know. I don't think I'll be like a Tatum guy.
He could be like a Tatum type defender if he.
Yeah, well, I mean, he might sneak a second All NBA team if he's on a stacked defensive roster one of these years.
For sure. Well, let's get to the next guy. We're hinting at him. I'm guessing it's all unanimously Jaylen Brown.
Yep.
Yeah.
crazy good season from him, which is kind of funny because I like this season from him better than his season before where he made All-NBA. Personally, from my personal preference, I think obviously just the Celtics were so loaded this year. It just allowed everyone to balance out their games so much. No one was overexerted. Yeah, I mean, he's just Finals MVP, coming off of Finals MVP and Eastern Conference Finals or Eastern Conference Finals MVP, like, and he earned that. Like, he's one
of the better players.
He was the best player on the court in those Finals series. Pretty much. I mean, Luka obviously was the best player. He had probably comparable stats, but Luka didn't look like himself during that series, and Kyrie was doo-doo, and Tatum was shitting himself on his and obviously Drew looked great, but like I just think that he just looked so great throughout the playoffs and the regular season. He was just the perfect balance to everything. He just filled in all the gaps. He's like a glue guy, but he does all the glue guy stuff as like a star level. You know what I mean?
That's the word I think of when I think of Jaylen Brown is balance. Like, I feel like he's really found the balance within his own game, and I just love last year for him, especially coming off, the
very controversial season,
the 2023 playoffs, where it's like, he was getting clowned on for his left hand. People were low on Jaylen Brown, even coming off an All-NBA season, right? And I think last year, obviously, the reinforcements with Drew and Kristaps obviously help a lot, but I just think he's found the balance in his game. Jaylen Brown has, and I mean, in the playoffs we saw it. The Celtics were amazing. Jaylen Brown was the Finals MVP, which I think was deserved. I think Tatum had might have a case, but ultimately I think I would have given it to Jaylen Brown had it been my choice as well. I love the career kind of arc for Jaylen Brown, being a guy that was considered a major draft reach, right? Like, he was raw coming out of Cal, like really, really raw, was not put together, but had the tools. And, in Boston after all these years, he's found the balance, and it's really worked out for them.
Yeah. Well, dude, Jaylen Brown's whole draft, I don't want to go into too much his draft process. Wasn't he the guy that got labeled that he might be too smart to enjoy basketball? They're like, he needs to research and all that. Like, dude, shut up. And he why?
Like when an athlete actually has like an educated worldview, the GMs freak out because they don't want that kind of guy who asks.
I'm so glad that's not the mainstream way of sports analysis anymore. Like, you think, like, looking back, and I'll make this a quick point because I could go on a rant about this, but like, you go back to like watching NFL draft coverage, MLB coverage, like, obviously this movie's dramatized, but like, if you've ever watched Moneyball, dude, like the scene like where they're all sitting at the table, it's like the GM and all the scouts, and they're like, well, his girlfriend's ugly, so we can't draft him because that means he's not confident in himself. Or it's like, what the fuck does that even mean, dude? They're like, well, he went to a smart person school, so he might not be dedicated. It's like, dude,
like, but then there's also like the opposite spectrum where someone like Ben Simmons, who was like, fuck school, gets like his draft process. One of his issues, like, even though he went one, his big,
he was off LSU's campus as soon as the season ended.
His biggest question was like, does he care, or will he care about basketball? Because he didn't care about education. But then someone who's dedicated and educated, like, will he care? It's like, just shut up. Like, Jaylen Brown obviously cared, and you can see he's improved every step of the way in his career.
I really hate that he's on the Celtics, dude.
Dude, I absolutely love his game, and I think he's one of those guys similar to Chris, where I think he bites a bullet. Like, I think he could be a successful one option. Maybe not like on a championship team, but I think he's someone that is so bought in, but also like so willing to just do everything at a high level, be that glue guy that is just like, he's just a star, man. I fucking love Jaylen Brown.
Me too.
Go Pac-12.
Pac-2.
Pac-12. Pac-2. I think, okay, moving on to number one.
LeBron
James, man.
Crazy.
Absurd.
Still crazy. He's still this good at 40 years old, man.
I love how we got the call and we were doing all this, and both Jeff and I were just like, "Holy shit, LeBron is still the best small forward in the league. This is crazy."
Yeah, it is. It's actually nuts. It's actually crazy that he's still that good, man. I mean, he doesn't even look like he's slowing down. Does he look worse than he did like 2 years ago? Like, yeah, but like it's not like that noticeable. Like,
no. And like I said, he's found ways to just like diffuse the fact that he's gone old.
Dude, his shooting last year was crazy. Have you guys looked at his shooting numbers from last year?
Had his best 3-point shooting season ever.
Yeah, I was like 8 or 9 attempts.
It's crazy, bro.
He shot. Let me find it. So he shot 5. Oh no, wait, this isn't the most he's ever shot. He shot 41% from 3 on 5 attempts. That's crazy.
And a lot of them were not catch and
No,
shoot.
they were not catch and shoot.
A lot of them were not
catch and shoot at all.
Yeah, dude. Like we could go on for so long just saying how crazy it is, man. Like even though his athleticism and his speed has kind of regressed, honestly, he's still pretty insane athletically, but
he's still top like 10% in the NBA.
Yeah, definitely. But even though he's regressed, like when you are just like mentally just multiple plays ahead of everybody else at all times, like yeah, you're just gonna be good. Like he's insane. I don't know what else to say. Like LeBron is he turns 40 in a few months and he's still a top 10 player in the NBA.
Yeah, and looking at this list, I'm going to say confidently, I am going to put LeBron James at number 1 on this small forward list next year too.
Yes, next summer
like,
he's
even if he gets injured, it's like benefit of the doubt. Like Jaylen Brown's not making that jump. You know what I mean? Scotty Barnes, you're not going to give him that off of 1 year, even if he made that jump. Nobody else is even really young enough to make a jump unless, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's got this position in a chokehold, and he's had this position in a chokehold for what? 2 decades?
20 years, yeah.
Yeah, like, he is... like, it's hard to even talk, like, basketball about him just because it's like everyone knows the fucking LeBron.
Yeah.
He's going to do what he wants to do.
But we really gotta cherish and appreciate these last years.
I need to go. I'm gonna try. I don't care how much it costs. I'm going to Lakers at Bucks this year.
You've got to. I saw LeBron last year. I'm
so sad I didn't get to see him when he was on the Heat live.
I've only seen him as a Laker. I think I've seen him a couple times as a Laker, but
yeah,
it's like you only have so many chances to get you gotta, and if you're listening to this, watching this or whatever, like if you have the means to, like, please go see LeBron, because there are own he's got 2 years left probably.
Yeah, I'm hoping, my thing is I'm just hoping he lasts long enough to where I can just try to get a media pass his last season, and just hope. My goal is to interview him before he retires, as I'm first getting into it.
Yeah, that's a great goal, man. I
just got to get him the last.
It's like LeBron. Yeah, the only way you're gonna get that to be able to ask LeBron questions is a post game presser, because he doesn't go on any media other than his own.
Oh yeah, was he on Shannon Sharp's thing?
I don't think so yet. I don't think so. But Club Shay Shay is hilarious though.
I do love Club Shay Shay.
Well, I think that
it's a barbershop, LeBron. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, it's like that barbershop show. My favorite one is Ice Spice is on there, and he started just bullshitting. He just started lying about it. I love LeBron so much. He's such a funny guy. All right, well, I think that about wraps up everything we got today. Appreciate everyone who's made it through the full video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace.